even more obnoxious to deal with. How many times do we see a CNZ in the last couple of minutes on this map be straight up impossible to find?
Oh yeah. I also like that he banned Corrupted Keep right off the bat, so that clearly shows that CNZ is going into this with that game plan of favoring the larger maps. But we will start things off on Avok's point of view. No delays in the items just yet, both players just picking it up basically as soon as they're able to. But no bursts of aggression just yet. Avok just kind of slowly trying to figure out where his opponent is at, what items he might have available to pick up, as he does get all of the weapons, and CNZ does the exact same on the other side of the map. So now both players are primed and ready for action, looking for an opening rail. It's gonna give him an edge, and it's CNZ who lands the shot, takes one in return though. But the Estonian player does have the better positioning to at least take away Heavy. And Avok knows that he did most of the damage, so he's just can waltz right in and pick away Mega for himself.
Forces an exchange, but Avok able to fly around this map a lot more consistently so far because, like you said, he knows he dealt way more damage in that confrontation, and this is a pretty good fight so far. The drop down! Looking for the rail angle, I mean, he was on the money that he was indeed going to drop down. Just man had no health to absorb the inevitable lightning gun as Avok falls. Now, Heavy in place, but both items spawning at pretty much the same time. That's going to allow an even trade. CNZ still needs to get some weapons together, though. Now a rail on hand. Uses it immediately to secure some free damage. CNZ pushing up the jump pad. Avok was ready, and he juggles mans out of there.
Still, the damage output is massively favoring Avok right now. CNZ unable to keep up. But that rail, that's going to help him escape the tricky situation that he was in. And now both Mega and Heavy are up simultaneously. Avok gets away with Mega. CNZ, is he gonna go for it? He just drops on the armor. Will secure it, but drop a frag. At the very least, he denied that weapon, or the item rather, for Avok, but it isn't going to do him any favors in this engagement. The turret, combined with the LG, proved to be too much, and CNZ is bleeding. He's losing frags rapidly so.
This is a scary way to start a map, though. CNZ thrives when he's the one that is dictating the pace, and he's the one that's in control. No such fortune so far as man's on die hard. We only needed one little pellet, and that is all it takes. Unfortunately for CNZ, only a rocket launcher to his name. There is no way he can challenge the inevitable rail battle. Avok forcing these very uncomfortable positions upon him. And I can't believe it's 7-0 and we haven't even hit the 3-minute mark, Flea. I'm not used to seeing CNC lose like this.
I feel like he's playing unlike himself today, CNC. He's careless, almost in a way, and that is something that's not a term that you would usually use to describe him. He's running around the map and rarely seems to even look at Havok. Like earlier, he goes for the rockets, doesn't even check his right side.
Oh my god.
As he drops right onto a rocket. But CNZ is just, like, look, once again, he just jumps into the room time and time again, throwing himself at Havok with little regard to his own safety, with no concern for the weapons, the stack, or anything. And that carelessness is just resulting in a frag fest.
In doing this, now CNZ's in a position where surely he kind of has to continue it, because he's 12 frags behind. There is no possibility he can play a slow game now, because Avok's going to play on a 12 frag lead. I mean, yeah, of course. He could run away for 7 minutes. Oh, good lord.
Finally, CNZ gets a point on the board, but he needs so much more. I think the only good thing about this is that Avok got all these frags so quickly, and that there's still 6 minutes left to work with. But even then, CNZ needs an absolute breakneck pace of 2 frags per minute just to tie it up.
Getting some decent rockets, that's one of them, but oh my lord, there's just so much work left to do. There's only so much you can break down at this point, because any single major item that Avok picks up along the way is going to take that one frag CNZ needs to recover. It takes so much longer. I almost feel like Avek is going to take this map and almost be like oh, okay, fair enough. Cheers, mate. And just play things nice and basic so far. He doesn't need to overcomplicate this at all to win the map. I don't think he has to work that hard anymore. As weird as that is to say, there's just so much work for CNZ to do. I will be shocked if he can get 10 frags in 5 minutes without Avek getting a single one.
Indeed, CNZ. He's been bleeding frags for a while now, and Havok showing zero signs of slowing down. I feel like it just really came down to Havok doing so much more damage in those opening minutes, and then CNZ deciding like, you know what, I've almost got the frag. I've almost got it, and he keeps pushing, keeps thinking there's an opportunity to steal an item and then get the frag, or maybe turn it into something more. But before you know it, he's just throwing himself at Havok, who almost always seems to have a turret at the ready, and just rebukes his opponent, sends him flying right back, without CNZ being able to really do anything towards getting sort of consistent control over the map. And then before you know it, CNZ is so deep in the hole catch-up that he has to keep digging. Like you said, he has to keep throwing himself at his opponent if he even wants to have a snowball's chance in hell to make a comeback happen.
Extremely unlike CNZ this map was. It's just not a level of recklessness that we're used to seeing. Whether this is just an off map, perhaps CNZ might be trying some kind of different style, I don't know. But whatever it is, it has gone catastrophically wrong as Havok. It's almost completely guaranteed he's going to break that 20 frag point. Yeah. And this is just going to be the remainder of the map as Havok has taken this win. Absolutely nothing is going to change that. The only question we ask is how many frags can Havok end the map on?
Havok's doing over 4,200 points of damage. CNZ barely hitting 2.7k, so that is a tremendous advantage in favor of the Polish player. And if you look at the items picked up, Havok also dominating on that front. Not just with the majors, so Havok has more heavies and megas, but he also has more than twice as many of the small armors. And that's something that you very rarely see. Usually, it's a player who's out of control, who's behind on frags, who is struggling to get, or who's at least securing those small armors because his opponent can't pick them up. But this is such a brawl that Havok is denying everything, it feels like.
But it's like we said, nothing is going to change the outcome right now. All we can do is keep the hands warm, that muscle memory good and proper. As in 2.5 minutes, things will be over. You can even see Havok, he knows he's got this one in the bag. There really is no reason for him to go in with the same level that he started off as. But mandatory reflection for CNZ with how things went. He's getting some frags now, and clearly he's keeping things nice and limber as we go into the next few maps, but there's almost nothing left to break down as far as I'm concerned. This map's finished. If there was a GG option, it would have already been run.
Indeed, CNZ, he has to reconsider how he might approach map 2. But as we discussed before the series started, if there's any player in the league who's capable of doing that, it is CNZ. The man is just so mentally resilient to whatever happens that I can guarantee you that he's going to be able to shrug this one off and just reset going into map 2.
What concerns me a bit, Flea, is that this was one of his maps that... I know this wasn't his map pick, I believe Molten was, but... this was one of the maps that you look at and think that CNZ had a pretty good chance because it complements his style so much. It's just that when we went on this map, his style was not played. Hopefully we do see a bit more traditional CNZ as we go into Molten Falls. But this was a map I was expecting more from than what we saw. Oh, air assault. 30 frags.
Something you don't see every day, how do you? Especially not in the
Ruined.
Quake Pro League.
On the Corrupted Keep or something, maybe. But
Yeah.
31 frags on a Ruins of Sarnath, you're having a laugh, mate.
Havok also breaching the 5.5k barrier. There's really nothing more that can still be said about this series. Havok just absolutely pummeled his opponent to the point where CNZ felt like he had to go full aggro from basically the first minute onwards. And Havok just built up this wall, this dome of pain, and just sent CNZ backwards every single time he made a move.
Well, only 20 seconds left of this map as we'll be jumping into Molten Falls as fast as afterwards. Havok playing this perfect game all the way through, hitting those fantastic shots when he needs to. And just capitalizing off the reckless nature of CNZ. When you kind of fresh off spawn, appearing and grabbing the closest item possible, when Havok already has that angle prepared and ready. Every single time he was able to get a frag on CNZ, he laid a trap for the next play. And almost every single time, he went and took the bait. Yeah. It was, we lost count, really, I think. Over 6,000 damage Havok was able to do in that map. You do not see someone break the 6k barrier much at all.
Indeed, that is a phenomenal amount of damage that Havok put out this map. Wonder what that spells for the next two. Next map, it should also be Havok out-damaging his opponent simply because it is light versus heavy and Sorlak is quite a bit easier to hit than Anarchy. But then again, is this going to be the one for CNZ to start turning things around? He did pick Molten himself, so this is his own map pick. Sorlak is a very solid pick on this one as well. But can he play his own game? Is Havok going to allow him that level of comfort that he's hoping for to play a disciplined and slow game? Or is he just going to get baited out into the same once again?
Not a lot of time to reflect on it as we now go into Molten. I think both players will be readying up as soon as possible. The nature of there being one heavy versus a light does naturally give one side a bit of an advantage on paper alone, but as we've clearly seen earlier on with Saigib versus Sib, the stack difference, it can just be one of many factors that certainly will not decide the outcome. But for CNZ's sake, you need to slow it down a bit because it's rare that within about 3 minutes of a map, you can look at how things are going and say, right, that's done. We may as well move on to the next map. Because that's exactly what happened here. About 13 frags or so had landed at the 3-minute mark.
On ruins, Ketchup, on ruins. That is just absolutely absurd. It felt like we were watching a game of Unholy Trinity or just random deathmatch more than duel at times because Havok was just so dominant in his performance that time around. Now we are starting to load into map 2, Molten Falls, entirely different arena, very different champion picks as well. Now CNZ has an outspoken advantage in terms of stack that he's going to try and leverage in a way that he can bully Havok around. Now, however, if Havok's aim, his damage output is anything to go by, the Polish Prince is not going to give that up without a fight.
I'd be surprised if he does. But again, we kind of, with this kind of matchup, I look at the start of the map every time too. Who's going to spawn where? Normally with CND, it's not something you focus on, but it's hard to ignore what happened in that first map. We've said that CNT is a fantastic player at shaking off these mishaps and these bad moments when they do happen. That's something hopefully we can just put behind us straight away. As now, we begin. One stack significantly larger than the other, that's for sure. Havok getting mega side, which does mean he's going to get a little bit of armor to his name, but CNZ is going to get rail side, and already looking. Doesn't hit the opening shot though. 2 opportunities to land some big damage. Havok putting the delay between the two of them, and I'm not particularly sure CNZ is ready for the delay, actually, because he's too far away to hear it.
Yeah. It was a good play from Havok, though. We're immediately getting some high aggression. Havok lands the rockets, whereas CNZ is just flailing around with the nail gun. It's going to help the endpoint player significantly. Now CNZ does get heavy and Havok is there with the damage. Lands a rail. Uses the injection to make sure that he won't be susceptible to a railgun frag before he takes the mega. And he's still delaying it.
I feel like the reason that was still being delayed is because he knows that CNZ didn't hear it get picked up last time and he wants to keep it that way. The less information a large champion has, the better. Especially someone like CNZ. Has these rail angles, but Havok with the denial.
Those are some good shots by CNZ though. 2 rails connecting. Havok has 0 stack left to work with, has to give up heavy for free. So CNZ now, tremendous stack to work with.
Bit of optimization from CNZ as well, who definitely still looked like he wasn't 100% convinced over where the spawn was, but there's lots of stuff for him to soak up along the way. The important thing about him taking them is that Havok isn't. As we push forward towards heavy, Havok forced to retreat, cannot fight for this heavy, but as long as it maintains that 0-0, All it takes is one opportunity to turn things around. Havok has got to start hitting the damage, but here comes Sorlag right round the corner, rapid style. CNZ takes that first frag on the board. This is looking a bit more like the CNZ that we were expecting to see on Ruined, but didn't.
Indeed, this is a much more disciplined and reserved play style going into this one. CNZ gets the Mega. It's now racing over towards the Heavy. Havok positioned in between. Can the nail gun work for him? It is so close, but the Heavy behind him is going to allow him to survive that engagement and get the frag to tie it all back up. Loving Havok's positioning right there, not getting too close to the doorway because he knows that CNZ spawned over the rockets and that if that Sorlag just come blazing in through the doorway, you don't want to be anywhere near it. So Havok just patiently putting himself far enough away with the LG out, knowing that he can still push CNZ back if he decides to go for the push.
Ooh, hits a tidy rail too. CNZ railable. Havok really can't stick around and find out if he can hit another shot because he himself just as weak, and with this chase down potential of Sorlag, something he definitely needs to respect. But what comes next? Mega is going to be the next objective. Both players looking like they're pretty good on the weapon front. Unfortunately, missing that opening rail is going to make things a little bit frustrating. And Havok, even more frustrating still, cannot stop the benefit of that Mega. 4 rails in a row that he fails to connect.
It's good for CNZ's sake that the damage output is so much tighter this time around than the previous game. Previous map, Havok had more than twice the amount of damage by this point than CNZ did. But now, it's basically tight. Havok has got 100 points of damage over his opponent, but other than that, this is a very balanced game. And it's helping CNZ a lot because of that higher stack that he has. If they keep trading the same amount of damage, it is the Sorlag that is going to benefit from the outcome.
Yeah, the rail has not been Havok's friend so far. Only 29%, you know, 5 out of the 17. Against a large champion, you really need to be hitting more than that. But speak of the devil, and he shall appear! 3 rails back to back, looking for a 4th, and he hits it. All right, Havok. I'd say he heard me, but he didn't. But, you know.
It's Coster's curse to the opposite that time around. Just call it out, and he lands 4 shots in a row for the frag. And now CNZ makes a bit of a reckless drop down. Oh, can he get out? Rocket jump.
Not quite.
Yeah, the angle of the rocket jump just wasn't tight enough, sent him flying a little bit too high rather than horizontally. And now Havok immediately, reminiscent of the previous map, just turning it into 3 quick frags.
Push that seemed to maybe cool the bluff. CNZ, he can hear the nail gun, but he just mustn't have expected Havok to stick to it as long as he did. Oh, and here comes the damage. We were talking about Havok not hitting as many of the shots as he needs to, and he's completely turning it on its head. Oh, the perfect call out. He knows where CNZ is going to retreat to as well. He's 1 step ahead every single time. And in the blink of an eye, we are starting to go back. An aggressive push, a Heavy that is stolen away, an injection that stops a little bit of the damage from coming through, and that, I blinked and missed it, Flea.
Really clever play by Havok, knowing that CNZ doesn't have rockets yet to take that fight, so he just gets as close as he possibly can, bounces his opponent up. Sure, your opponent takes the Heavy, but you still have the weapon advantage, and that got him the frag. Now Havok, after taking that rail, is looking a little bit tender. CNZ still has plenty of time to make something happen here, but he needs to start once again doing more damage because Havok has broken away tremendously. Oh my goodness, catch up. It feels like a minute ago where I pointed out that they were essentially tight, but now 2 minutes later, Havok has 3.4k and CNZ is trailing at just 1.8. What just happened?
Like I said, we blinked and missed it. It's crazy, the explosive nature that Havok has brought forward, both in Ruins and now Molten. This was looking so much like just bringing us back to how things normally are here, but another scary situation for CNZ. The rockets trying to keep him at arm's reach, denying as many of these rail angles as possible. I think there was an element of freedom being put forward because, let's be honest, Havok's rail was not looking so hot, and then in the blink of an eye, he starts hitting basically every single shot. And this is where a duel can get transformed, because in the middle of the map, your strategy can change depending on what your opponent is showing you. If they show you that they're not hitting the rails, they're not so good with one weapon or whatever it is, you can start to use that in your decision making. So maybe CNZ did start pushing forward a bit more because he noticed that Havok is just missing all these rails. And then before you know it, now he's hitting everything. And now you're stuck in no man's land, and it's 5 frags later.
Could very well be the case. CNZ does get a little bit of a win right there. Havok didn't have rockets, missed the railgun, but oh my goodness! Ketchup, a little careless, reckless once more. Although this time around, he doesn't really have much of a choice but to just go for the offense time and time again, because with 3 minutes left and 9 frags of a deficit, this is starting to border on the impossible already.
9 frags in less than 3 minutes on a larger map. Have to factor in the fact that Havok will be picking up armors along the way. He's going to have plenty of injections, opportunities that will draw out any frag, and the fact that he's now getting even more so. This has to be a rapid up 2-0 for Havok. Oh, this was so close for so much of the map. And then out of nowhere, Havok just starts hitting every single shot and establishing himself just as much. You can see why he had that strategy from the get-go, because hitting the shots was part of the plan. Missing them wasn't. And now CNZ is struggling to get himself back on. Has got to play this fast game. Has got to try and get frags. Can't be patient anymore. But that's all she wrote.
Havok just flipped the switch. Ketchup. That's what that came down to. Opening few minutes were shaky, were inconsistent. Allowed CNZ to keep it very close in terms of score and damage, but then at one point Havok was just like, you know what? I can do better than this. And he started landing those rails 4 in a row. You pointed it out, that was really the moment where everything changed. And then the LG accuracy just skyrocketed as well. CNZ completely left in the dust, unable to keep up. And now Havok once again with a tremendous difference in score, just coasting into the clear, knowing that this is his win.
Now the worrying thing is that this is the final of the large maps they're going to be playing on rotation. So right now, I mean, our third map is going to be Awoken. And that's a map that if you looked at these two players, I'd be like, oh yeah, Havok, surely Awoken, that's in his favor. And he's been able to win these first 2 maps in such a fashion that these were the ones I expected CNZ to do a lot better. This could very well be a 3-0, how things have gone today. Unfortunate, really, that it has gone the way it has. The start of this map was a lot more promising, but Havok, he is bringing that A game and then some. This is the Havok that everyone loves, and for good reason.
I mean, this is the Havok that got 5th place in the previous stage finals, that was ranked number 2 EU after a full stage of grueling matches against some of the best players in the world. So I'm very happy to see that he is carrying it over into the 3rd stage, because of course this is the debut performance of both of these players. First match they're playing in the 3rd stage. Looks like CNZ has a bit of work cut out for him. He performed reasonably well during the STD Community Cup earlier this weekend, but now Havok is just proving to be a bridge too far as he secures map 2 once again with a 16-point difference.
An impressive showing. A 16 frag difference that... Okay, so again, yes, light versus heavy, but that was 3.6 thousand damage versus 6.6. Havok straight up did 3,000 damage more. And that's quite impressive.
I mean, doing over 6,000 damage once is seriously impressive. And now this time around, he does it 2 maps in a row. Phenomenal performance by the Polish Prince. I'm curious, Ketchup, is he going to do it again on the final map in this series? 6K once more?
If he breaches 6,000 damage on all 3 maps, is that the highest damage a player has ever obtained in the weeklies?
I'm probably going to say yes. I can't think of any game I've seen where it was just over 6K every single map. So this might be a new record if Havok just continues on like this.
And we're starting to hit that kind of 2-year mark as well in the Pro League. So the fact that we're even able to still look at these maps and think about these new all-time highs, who knows? But our final confrontation, Awoken, Havok and CNZ. I mean, with how things have been going, it's hard to see anything else than a 3-0. Havok has been the right amount of aggressive. He doesn't need to be point blank and in your face to be aggressive. It just needs to be you pick something up, you take an item. He makes you pay for it in some way. He's always around. You always know of his existence. And on this final map, it's a map that is a lot more combat heavy than the other two. And the fact that Avek's rail, in contrast to the beginning of Molten, which wasn't so good, flipped a switch, as you quite rightly said, and then it was night and day difference. Now we're going on Awoken. Advantage again.
And also 48% LG. Just noticed at the end there, just before it dipped away, Havok's aim on point with every single weapon. And this is a really strong start. Back in the Stage 2 finals, the highest damage we saw during any map was by Nosfa, who did 6.1k damage. And now Havok has already left that in the dust, doing nearly 6.6 it was?
That was 6.6. It was
that's
3.6 versus 6.6. That's it wasn't just the 6.6, it was the fact he had 3,000 more damage. Insane.
Incredibly strong start from Havok. Let's see if he can continue in the final map of this series, or whether or not CNZ can turn this around. We said it at the beginning, right? This is the map that we were worried about for CNZ, because the previous two maps should be more of his flavor. But looking at the results, this could be a disaster for him.
Now CNZ getting the rail side spawn. Now as a Doomslayer, he's going to have the rocket launcher, but the problem is your opponent having an LG and you don't makes this fight kind of scary sometimes. Now gets a really good opening rocket. Havok expecting him to go around the other way and wait through teleporter. I like that little bit of a drop away, and CNZ prepared for it, but he takes so much LG damage. Ouch.
Havok starting to hide those totems already, but CNZ, I think, caught wind of that. He should know what Havok is up against and try to maybe destroy some of those totems early on. He's gonna leave this one for the time being. Nicely played by CNZ. He was hungry for the frag, for the damage, and waited so patiently with the rail to secure himself a kill there.
When you put concentration onto rail in these situations, does come with it a heavy cost if even a single one of them gets missed in general, because as we can see now, able to get a little bit more damage as he goes towards Mega, but that's a Mega that he ran the risk of having to concede. But thankfully, doesn't quite have to so far. It's a good drop down, but Havok with the opening damage. The rails have not been his friend so far. The double jump to try and escape. Can't shut down the heavy either. But he gets as much damage as he can, given the circumstances. I mean, that's going to be building towards the inevitable next frag, perhaps. Mega still yet to spawn, so this is going to allow CNZ to keep piling on the pressure.
In a very effective manner too. CNZ making good use of that mobility advantage that he has over Havok. The double jump is so powerful around the center area of this map. So Havok has to be mindful of that, but he does have all of his totems up, and still, with a Mega out of nowhere, he will drop the frag regardless. If he had another totem at the ready during that fight to just drop it and heal up, that would have absolutely been his kill, but just didn't have the ability at the ready yet. And CNZ has to be careful, Gacha, because he should be aware that the totems are all up, and that every single time he faces Havok, he's likely to go up against a Mega stack.
Now, this is what I've been looking at CNZ's point of view for a couple of minutes, and he hasn't come close at any point to looking for totems. He finds one on the way now because he was just going that way anyway. But by ignoring totems and kind of just not keeping an eye out on them has allowed Havok to bring himself back into the fray. Elena, you know, one of the only champions I think out there that can thoroughly excel if the opponent just straight up isn't playing the matchup.
Look at how Havok is leaving the Mega up. He just wants more and more damage. He knows that he's got that resource behind him. 2 rails. And now he's just gonna loop right back around to pick it up. Oh, kind of a little fumble there, but CNZ not ready to punish it. And this is once again a beautiful play by the endpoint player. Good rail as well. CNZ once again forced on the defensive, but can't get out of the danger zone in time, and Havok is going to make him pay the price.
The rail is all CNZ has. Unfortunately, only one of these two players can tank one. Both players missed their mark. CNZ, he needs to get this frag. He needs to, because if he gets the frag, he can then look to his left and inevitably take out those totems that have been causing him so much trouble.
Oh!
No! No, CNZ! He even looked at the totems as well, but decided not to at the time.
That rocket, though, a homing rocket from down below, Havok just firing in his general direction, and CNZ showing his face at just the wrong time, and now all 3 totems are up at the same part of the map. Come on, CNZ. No, he still doesn't go
please
for
get
it.
the totem. Get it. He saw them as well.
God.
I'm not one to question a player a million times better than me, but it's hurting my heart to see it.
Havok is just
He's always going to have that point to retreat to.
Yeah.
Always.
Like, look at that. Havok has 32 points of health.
Not for long.
And bop, there we go. Right over 100 once more. Make it 150. He might as well have just picked up a mega. 175, sure, why not? Let's go all the way, Havok says. And now CNZ, yeah. It's in such a bad position.
This is
the high ground helps, yeah.
Looking for the spawn. Now, yeah, for his credit, Totem is one objective, but Frag is the ultimate one. If he can get pressure on the spawn first, he can take out the big problem later. However, Havok has been able to already retreat back and get that overstack once more because CNZ just left it unchecked. There has been a real mismanagement of his opponent's resources on this map. It really can't be ignored. Steals away the heavy, but if CNZ doesn't take out these totems right now, it's gonna be a pain later. It's already a pain right now.
CNZ is actually doing most of the damage this time around, only by a small amount, but still out-damaging Havok. But the healing. Havok has gotten 3 times as much healing as his opponent, basically. And that is making it next to impossible for CNZ to, even if he's landing the shots, make anything happen with it.
Able to push forward into Totem Town once more. CNZ not quite able to push up either, which means that a rail, Havok wants it, it's going to be able to take it. Doesn't take the rail just yet. Instead, wants to shut it down. Drops down and gets that overstack!
That hurts to see. He just stepped right off the mega at the worst possible time. I think that would have been his win if he had just held his ground. But he gave it up at the worst possible moment, so didn't get that health boost. Whereas Havok did have a totem to heal him right back up. So CNZ now, 5 frags in 4 minutes. It can be done. And those rails, they are exactly what he needs.
Ignoring the totem right now, but that's for good reason. Even with that totem's worth of health, was going to be able to hit that final rail. It's not going to be part of the plan. It doesn't matter. But now, as Havok will survive and push forward, he's the one with LG in play. These rockets for CNZ, they're just not doing anything. Looking for the rail. But, I mean, this has to be a done deal. The perfect read from Havok. CNZ is just getting completely rattled at the moment.
Did you notice the patience on Havok behalf? He walked by the mega just to avoid more damage, knowing that, hey, you're not gonna kill me with the stack that I have now, so I am just going to wait and wait and wait and wait so that I still have the mega available, even if you do land a good shot on me now. So incredibly calculated by Havok, and CNZ just didn't have an answer to it.
It's kind of hard to look at parts of the map or think of moments of the map where Havok has not had all 3 totems ablaze. It's just been an absolute game changer. CNZ, I mean, yeah, he's been getting so much damage and he has been hitting the shots he needs to, but this Galena has refused to die. And this totem in the corner, it's been there for 10 minutes.
Indeed it has.
Good fight for CNZ, having the high ground.
He is getting some frags, and Havok doesn't have all of the totems up right now, but does it matter with 2 minutes left and 7 frags? Like, CNZ basically needs a miracle right now.
He basically needs Havok to put the mouse and keyboard down and just sit in his chair for a bit. I just don't see any reality where we're going to see any kind of comeback here. As unfortunate as it is, Havok has been aggressive the entire time, but he's kept an absolute surgical memory on where each of his totems are, keeping them in weird places. CNZ, on the opposite end of that, he just, for lack of a better term, he hasn't looked for them. He has not kept them in mind, and that has given Havok a massive advantage in almost every single fight, to a point where Havok can sometimes see it and be like, take the item, see if I care, because I have another item, because I've just sat here on my totem and got a mega's worth of health. Here we go. Hits a rail. CNZ. He can't push forward. He's going to get outstacked. The totems are going to see to it. Oh my god, die. Galena.
Must be so frustrating for CNZ to play against. I am a little curious about the frag count as well, though. We might be looking at another record here, too. Havok has gotten nearly 20 frags, if not more than that, every single map so far. I think he had 20 on map 1, 18 on map 2, and now he's coming up to the same scoreline, and that's obscene. It's nearly 60 frags, even one with the totem. The one time that CNZ finds the totem, it's with his face. Him. And he pays for it. Oh,
that is so tragic, Flea. And what a perfect way for the map to end right there. That CNZ, the moment he actually looks at the totem in that corner, he gets blown up by it. And actually, no, that totem's still there. I mean, he doesn't got to worry about it anymore because the map's done, but oh, that makes you sad.
Can he get the 20? The big 20 bomb. Havok sure is going to try, but nope, CNZ will still shut that down at the end. Not that it matters, this is over and done. And Havok makes a statement, roaring into stage 3 of the Quake Pro League, taking down CNZ in an incredibly commanding fashion.
I would like to point out as well that by the end of that map, Havok was 9 damage away from breaking 6,000 damage on all 3 maps as well. That is a heavy hitter of a 3-map cycle here from Havok, who obliterated CNZ today. And one of the more prominent things we have got to mention on this map, the totem game played perfectly by Havok, not played perfectly at all by CNZ, because that first totem that Havok dropped down near where Rail spawns was used in almost the opening minute, and it stayed there for the remainder of the entire map. And that is not something you're used to seeing in Pro League, because the stack difference, thanks to the stack totems, gave Havok so many advantages. I'm kind of shocked that CNZ was just not looking for them. It's not something that he does. He's the kind of player that looks for that kind of thing. I'm not sure what happened today, but this didn't look like the CNZ that we're used to seeing.
Indeed, he's gotten off to a pretty shaky and questionable start to this stage. Very much unlike his usual self, rather just not keeping track of the totems whatsoever, being repeatedly reckless to the point of it just being abandoned, essentially, giving Havok so many opportunities to deal damage when he was just careless in his positioning and choosing when to be aggressive. Very unlike the CNZ that we are used to, I think. So this might be a moment for reflection. This is still only the very beginning of the stage. This is the first time Havok and CNZ have played in stage 3, so still plenty of opportunity to adjust, but he should get on that as soon as possible.
Looking on the bright side, this is the best time for that kind of thing to happen.
Yeah.
If you're going to use any of it as information, back to the drawing board, whatever it is, better now in week 2 than way later when it's too late to change and you have to focus on relegation or whatever it is. So on that note, that is our 4th series of the day done and dusted. We're jumping into the start of our featured matchups, which also means we're going to be joined by a very wonderful DJ Wheat. So in about 6 minutes or so, we'll be back.